Welcome, and thank you for joining us today. We're thrilled to have you here for an insightful presentation that will take you through the journey that Rehrig Pacific embarked on to deploy their new Edge AI logistic solution. To deploy this solution within customer environments and behind customers' firewall, Rehrig Pacific needed to meet the highest level of security and compliance, which is why they choose Ubuntu Core as their operating system. We are honored to have Brian Rowe, VP of Information Technology, and Rob Martin, VP of Technology at Rehrig Pacific, with us. With extensive experience in IT and business development, Brian and Rob bring a wealth of knowledge and passion for leveraging technology to enhance operational efficiency and workforce capabilities. Hi, Brian. Hi, Rob. Please, the floor is yours.
Great. Hi. Nice to meet everybody. So at Rehrig Pacific Company, we have a slogan here we call "Fall in love with the problem and not the solution." So we're going to go into some problems that we discovered and that how we solved those with our AI edge solution. So a little bit about Rehrig Pacific. We're in our 112th year of business, continuous business, and we've been partnering with our companies to achieve sustainability goals. Creating a circular economy for well over 100 years. Some of the solutions that we brought to market over those last 100 years started with a wood battery box. And you can see how that's evolved from wood milk crates to plastic crates to recycling containers, all the way now into our material handling and our technology solutions that we're offering today. One of the problems we're going to talk about today that we used AI to solve is in the direct store delivery space. This space hasn't seen innovation since the 1800s. They're still delivering product with a hand truck that was invented in the late 1700s. And these industries you'll see are beverage, beer, dairy, bakery, food service. With the exception of moving from horse to trucks, it was basically delivered the same way for the last 200 years until now. So some of the solutions that Rehrig is bringing to the direct store delivery industry is around our core competencies, right? We create core plastic pallets. We have material handling solutions. We have vision technology, and then we have services to bring those together. Today, we're going to talk specifically about some of our vision technology that we've implemented into the warehouse space. We call it SKU verification, and it leverages AI and deep machine learning integrated into a stretch wrapper to provide a QC audit of every case that goes onto a pallet, right? And what this is going to do is increase order accuracy. It's going to eliminate the manual audits and reduce special selections and restocking. And overall, it's going to drive a better delivery experience on the end because the order is visually checked and accurate at the time of delivery. So here's what it looks like. You can see in a beverage operation, you have a pallet of cases of all kinds of different branded products, and they go on a stretch wrapper. And we have a couple cameras and some lighting there. And the process is as that pallet spins, we're going to audit every single case on that pallet and match that to a pick list. So the stretch wrapper itself, as I mentioned, 2 cameras. It has dynamic lighting. It has an edge compute. So all the machine learning inference is done at the edge. And we're inside the customer's firewall. All we need to operate is a live connection to the internet. And then we have a tablet-based UI to record the results that the computer vision and the ML is responding back to. So as the operator places the pallet onto the wrapper and wraps it, within about 15 seconds, he gets a verification of whether that case was verified or whether that pallet was verified. And if it was correct, we get the green screen. If there was any errors, then they will see specifically what error at the case level was happened. And then they can correct it. So huge value for our customer. Customers that were manually counting cases, manually checking pallets, sending bad product out into the trade. This has greatly helped them do the QC audits in seconds versus very long minutes or hours. But as we put this in, we discovered a problem. embedding scaled AI at the edge into a customer's secure enterprise network. So I'm on the product side. I get to develop products, put them in the customer. And one issue that we run into is corporate security. And corporate security is saying you're not going to put that compute in my environment, in my network. And so this was the problem we were facing. We couldn't scale our application without a way to satisfy enterprise security. And we also needed a way to deploy it at scale as well. So that's where I partnered with my colleague here, Brian, who leads our IT and security function here at Rehrig Pacific. And he's going to talk to you about how we tackled that problem.
Yeah, Rob loves to say that we just collaborated, but really what happened is he gleefully strolled down the hall and said, hey, I need you to convince some corporate security guys to let me put our device on their network, and you're one of them, so I need you to tell me how to do that. And it led to some really fabulous discussions about what are we trying to accomplish. And to Rob's point, as an organization, we're often looking for really innovative ways to tackle problems, whether that's on behalf of our customers, or for me, my customers are actually internal employees, including our product development team. So how do we find an innovative way to establish a beachhead within a customer's secure network where they have concerns? Frankly, we want to be as concerned as they are, because that's also our brand identity that's on the line if we introduce a vulnerability into their environment. And so we went out, and with our pilot customer, we started the Herculean effort. Now this is Atlas, not Hercules, but the problem remains the same. We sat down with the enterprise security team with our pilot customer, and they asked 200 questions, every one of which I could empathize with. And for the pilot, we ended up standing up a fully segregated network. We even had our own ISP dropped into their DC, had a fully separate firewall and infrastructure, because at the end of the day, we reached an impasse where that security team was unwilling to allow us to introduce our compute device on their network without management, visibility, their security agents, all of the things that we believed, one, while important for the security of their environment, were not going to help the overall efficiency and reliability of the product that we were developing. And from that, we've explored every other opportunity, Rob and I sat down and said, hey, look, that's not going to scale. And we also were realizing at that point too, that this was the first time as an organization that we were developing a product where the software couldn't just be delivered over the air. We have IoT devices in the field on residential trash trucks across the country, and we've been doing that for years. But when you have a device that's full LTE connected all the time, it's easy to OTA, drop security updates to it. Now I've got something that needs to be able to initiate an outbound connection, check in for updates on its own, and it's a complex environment. So when we thought about that problem, a name that kept coming up in the conversation was Ubuntu. We were already developing on the Ubuntu 18 LTS desktop edition, and so our teams were very familiar with it. But in my experience, Ubuntu was already trying to solve the problem, or rather Canonical was already trying to solve the problem of managing a fleet of edge process devices. And so we picked up the phone and said, hey, we're already kind of building on your platform, but we'd really like to hear more about Core. And Core, to a degree, kind of came to the rescue. It checked a lot of the boxes. One, we were able to effectively deliver our application through the Snaps architecture. So we had been containerizing it on Docker. There was a lot of complexity to that. And now with Core, we're leveraging the embedded Snaps capabilities, which meant now we also had a fully automated pipeline from our CI/CD processes all the way up into fleet management to push that new code out. And because of the way Core is built, we knew that it would fail safe, that it would fall back if updates failed, and that it would remain reliable. I don't know how many of you may operate in environments like ours, whether it's internal or with our customers, but the thing just has to work. That stretch wrapper was designed, much like our industrial equipment, to run until it literally burns up. And unlike a lot of other environments where it's easy to say, oh, just reboot that thing because it needs to install an update, that's a really significant challenge for the operations that we could be disrupting in the distribution centers of our customers. Now, the other big thing with moving to Core is we now had a declarative version of the OS with a hugely diminished attack surface. Prior, when you install that desktop version, you get all of the fun widgets, including Solitaire and the web browser and all the things that make it easy for a consumer to use, but make it challenging for enterprise security to manage and keep the vulnerabilities out of the environment. And so now when you go out, it is now a headless device. You could plug a screen into it, but you're not going to be able to rapidly get access. That also limited the number of things that we needed to keep track of and update. So we're looking at kernel updates and core OS updates, and then mostly just dependency updates for our application stack. With the core system, we also got all the fleet management capabilities, and we're also leveraging the proxy with core so that when we go to our customers and we talk about what URLs and IP addresses they need to allow outbound, every one of them is actually owned by Rehrig Pacific, because they're coming to us. They're coming to us for the model updates, for all the application functions, now also for all the OS updates. They're all coming from one core set of IPs that we control, that we manage. And so that also gives a great sense of ownership when we talk to a customer that, no, this is our solution. And while we have really great partners like Canonical behind the scenes, there's not a list of here's 18 things that I need you to allow us to talk to. And one of them is Ubuntu update servers and things like that. And the reality is that now, through our secure application development practices, through our vulnerability management, and then leveraging Core's capabilities for fleet management, we're delivering a highly secure product that does act as an appliance. And we're able to deploy it at scale as we continue to watch the number of DCs, the number of stretch wrappers in the environment grow. We have an extreme level of confidence that we're going to have the capabilities to continue to deliver for our customers. And so, in part, that is how Rob and I, as colleagues, have spent a lot of time thinking about, how do we bring product development closer to enterprise IT, closer to enterprise security, and then leverage Canonical's Ubuntu Core product to actually deliver that.
Exactly. And we have a whole bunch more of automation products besides the stretch wrapper that we want to bring into our customers' environment, from dock portals to destackers, as you can see on this page here. And this is how we plan to be that trusted advisor to our customers in this direct store delivery space.
Brian wrote a fascinating story of a real use case that is helping organizations today that easily resonates with our open source community as they follow those steps, as they follow the steps of putting their innovations to market. Let's talk more about the open source angle here. I have a couple of questions there. How is using open source technology helping you with the development of your AI application? And at the same time, what was the trade-off between using open source and the security posture that you saw from your customers?
I can talk about what we've done from the open source, on the product side. Like, I don't know if we'd be able to even take our product to market without open source technology, right? It wouldn't even necessarily be feasible from a cost standpoint. And our developers love open source because it's not a black box and they can see all the code and what's there, right? If we had to leverage a bunch of proprietary black boxes to do what we're doing, it wouldn't be a feasible product, right? So we've leveraged OpenCV for most of the image manipulation that we are doing. We use YOLO as our framework. We could also use PyTorch. But YOLO, we started, I think, with V5. We're on V8 now, and it just works well for our use case. So we've continued to standardize on that. And it's transparency, right? Again, we can see the code, and that's important to us and our developers. So we leverage open source across our solutions, and again, it just makes them economical, and also we control more of our own destiny.
Yeah, and Gabriel, I would add, as we think about the security posture challenge, software composition analysis is always a key component of how we think about security for deployed applications. And as part of that, within the same project, we did a substantial amount of work to ensure that we were actually following industry standard best practices around secure software development. So, for example, we build software bombs with every build that help highlight exactly what we're using from the open source community, what versions we're using. We have an SCA tool that's in the build pipeline to help us establish frameworks around things like, we now need to move from V7.2 to V8.0 because there's a security vulnerability that's been identified in YOLO that needs to be remediated. So we're taking that component very seriously. And to Rob's point, we appreciate the transparency, and we're turning that transparency over to our customers to say, hey, here's everything that's sitting in this device that's on the network, which that transparency generates really solid conversations. There's an expectation that there will eventually be a vulnerability in something that we have deployed. We just may not know it yet. but our customers understand that we have the processes and the tools in place, both to notify them and address the problem. And then again, leveraging fleet management to be able to rapidly get updates out into the field reliably.
And Rehrig is a company that has experience complying with industrial standards. And but this is not the case for many startups, for instance, that are working on the field of AI. I want to get your opinion there, because many people think that, for instance, these new regulations that we see upcoming here in Europe, like the Cybersecurity Resilience Act, or also some cybersecurity regulations that we see in the US, people think that they are stopping innovation, that most companies won't be able to comply with that. What is your opinion in this topic, and how do you think companies should face security regulations?
Yeah.
Want me to go first?
Sure,
Go?
take it.
Well, because we're going to probably have very different views maybe on this one, but well, I don't think we came together actually on it. The developers, some of the developers in AI and on my team would probably tell you that security would hinder innovation. They call it handcuffs, right? You're putting handcuffs on me and I can't innovate quickly as I need to, right? Well, what I found, you know, in security and enterprise security, especially, and trying to get our products, I can't tell you how many times I've walked into a meeting with a great product that I've already sold, you know, the operations team on, the executives on at a customer. And then the security director or the VP of IT comes in and he says, what about this, right? And if I can't check those boxes off, it doesn't matter if the CEO wants my product, right? It's going to be a challenge to get it in. So the position we've taken is hit it head on, right? And just be ready for that conversation before you walk into that boardroom. And that's where partnering with Brian and his expertise and the solutions and tools that he's brought to us to develop secure applications and deploy them, that has been tremendous for us in complying with enterprise security and being able to get past that objection in the boardroom.
Yeah, and it was a fun conversation, because I think when we first started talking about it and laying out the framework of what we were going to be doing, how there wasn't going to be a UI anymore, and you couldn't just load whatever app you wanted to be able to troubleshoot that thing or focus the camera or what, you know, the utilities that the team was used to using in the lab. And there was definitely a sense of drudgery of like, oh, I have to go now rebuild all these capabilities. And I will say, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time quoting a book, but like we think a lot about a book called Extreme Ownership. And in one of the chapters of that book, they talk about how these very rigid operating principles allowed their unit, and it's written by a couple of ex-US Navy SEALs. And so their operating unit in the field had very rigid principles, but it gave them a high degree of freedom because they knew exactly where the guardrails were. They knew what their rules of engagement were. They knew what every one of their colleagues was doing at any given moment. And it gave them a real freedom to move faster and approach situations as they were developing. And I think we're trying to accomplish that same thing within our development community. One, there was a big change management curve just helping people think through the process. Now you're not just getting bug alerts from QA, you're also getting failed builds because you've got security elements that need to be addressed. You know, we're trying to bring those further forward in the process so that they're less disruptive. But I think our teams have started to recognize, one, the value of being able to sell the product, but secondarily, they're feeling the accomplishment of having delivered a really secure product. And they've learned now that some of the challenges they got to face because we asked them to develop it in a secure way upped the ante a little bit for them, meaning they had to work a little bit harder. It was a harder problem to solve, which for good engineers tends to be more exciting in the long run, even though on the front end, I think it did feel like a lot of extra work.
Yeah, I think it was, but it's been delivered, and we learned to use the tools that we have and adjust. And again, now we're delivering secure apps at scale. And it's exactly what we need from the product standpoint.
Yeah.
Take a security posture from the beginning and use the regulations, those guidelines to help you build better products is a great advice that we get. And in this, in your rich history of more than 100 years of trading, of working, of innovating, what is next for Rehrig? What is next in this AI-driven transformation? What do you see is the next step that you will take, your key milestones that you anticipate?
That feels like a product question.
It could be a product question, and it'll definitely need your help. But you know, in the next 5 to 10 years, I keep going back to trusted advisor, right? We want to be the trusted advisor to our customers in the direct store delivery space, but also in deploying edge applications in an enterprise environment securely, right? We want to be able to go in and be that trusted advisor to them, so they trust that when Rehrig's putting an edge device on their truck or in their forklift or in their warehouse, that it's going to be deployed securely and it's going to scale, right? So in the next 5 to 10 years, I see us advancing our AI operations throughout the warehouse, throughout delivery, and throughout our entire customer's supply chain. And to do that, we'll have to be able to do that securely at the edge and at scale.
From an AI technology perspective, from an AI landscape perspective, what are you excited about? What innovation have you seen lately that is bringing you this idea of, oh, that is going to be great, that is going to be wonderful application for us?
You want me to take a stab?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think one of the things that we've seen, obviously everybody's talking about generative AI. Yeah. There are elements of generative running around in every application that I think we touch at this point. And Rob's team is certainly thinking heavily about that in terms of our product suite. But I think the thing that I would say that's probably most exciting about that is just thinking about the types of work that we can unlock. You know, thinking about how do we leverage generative tools so that our customers can ask better questions of the data that we're generating with the platforms that we're delivering at the edge. You know, I'm certainly thinking a lot about that internally. You know, seeing the conjoining of the tribal knowledge that we have as an organization with a deep history, coupled with technical documentation and vendor, you know, feedback, all in one place that becomes easy to access, that gets interns rapidly to a point where they can be almost as productive as seasoned senior engineers with some good guidance. I think it will take time for that to materialize, both in terms of our product suite and for our customers and internally. But I think we definitely see that on the horizon, and it's exciting.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think we're going to need it to be able to provide the answers that our customers are asking about all this data that we're collecting at the edge, right? So 100% agree with that, and that's a path that we'll be taking internally and externally here. So,
well, I think too, the joy of that is it creates space where we can deliver capabilities where we don't necessarily even know the questions that the customer may want to ask of their data. And to me, that's exciting. It's exciting because then you get to see them co-create how the product actually functions, because we know what data we're collecting, but we can't always predict how they're going to think about driving operational efficiency with the data that we've given them. And so that allows us a closer feedback loop with our customers too.
Brian, Rowe, thank you a lot.